Today on the Practical Pro Musician, what would I do if I had to start over from scratch in my music career? Which also is something you could do if you are starting brand new in your music career. Stay tuned. We love playing music, but it seems like the odds of making a living as a professional musician are about as high as winning the lottery. So the big question is this: how do musicians like us, with jobs, families, and responsibilities, get from where we are today to making a practical living playing music we love? Well, my name is Daniel Hadaway, and this show will give you the answers. This is the Practical Pro Musician. Welcome back again, my friend, to the Practical Pro Musician. My name is Daniel. As always, I'm so thankful that you decided to spend a few minutes of your day with me so we can talk all about the real world stuff that comes along with being a professional musician and also trying to become one, if that's you. And so it's kind of cool. This week, I actually, yesterday, as I'm recording this, got back from playing a gig on the road. And I don't know if I've mentioned on this podcast before or not, but I actually kind of currently have, I hesitate to say retired, but because you never say never, but I've made an intentional choice. I made this choice a good while ago, a year or two ago. I took a break from touring and playing music professionally. Did that break a couple of years ago and then kind of liked it. So I decided to make it more of a somewhat permanent choice. So, like I said, I'll never say never. But for now, I am very happy to not be traveling and playing gigs on the road anymore. I've enjoyed that part of my life, but I've moved on to other things, which part of that is this podcast. But anyway, but I played a gig with an old friend. She asked me to come play a show about 4 or 5 hours away. So we did old school stuff, which was we jumped in a car and we drove 5 hours and played a show and then came back the next day. So it was not luxurious. There was no tour bus. There was no, we didn't have a road manager with us. We didn't have a sound guy with us. We didn't have anything. It was just like a couple of friends jumping in a car, driving and playing a show. So it was a lot of fun. But doing that kind of got me thinking about the good old days, the days that for many of you listening, most likely when you get started, or if you have gotten started kind of doing the musician thing, the good old days for me was what you're probably doing, which is not having a tour bus or a road manager or a sound guy in a lot of situations of your own, but just jumping in a car or a van or a truck or whatever and just driving wherever you're going and playing the show and coming back, which it kind of got me thinking about those good old days, doing that kind of thing again. And I started thinking, man, I've been doing some form of music. And I still think of myself as a professional musician now because I still do studio sessions and I do this podcast and I'm involved in the world so much that I still think of it like that. And I still get called every once in a while to play shows, and I actually turn most of those down now because I enjoy what I'm doing at home now. But anyway, all of that, I think about, man, if I was back kind of starting out today with my music career, things would be different. I think I would do things differently than I did. I mean, it's been almost, I got my first paying gig over 20 years ago. Gosh, that's crazy to think about. I haven't thought about that until I just said it. But yeah, I haven't, more of my life, I've been playing music to make money for more of my life than I have not been doing that. So it takes up a majority of my life has been spent making money from playing music in some form or fashion. So it's been so long. I feel like I'm young still, but I know the world has changed in the time that it's been since I kind of started being a professional musician, or kind of became a professional musician, for lack of a better way of saying it. And so I would do things different now. There was I'd say 90% of the things that exist now, like digitally and technology and internet stuff, none of that existed back when I was getting started. What's funny is the principles stay the same, right? So the way we talk to people, the way we interact with others doesn't change just because there's an internet between us. Those principles still apply, which is why I even think that I have something to share with you in the first place. But I started thinking, man, what would I do differently now? What would I do now if I started over from scratch? And so I came up with a few things that I know for sure that I would do. Now, I've actually got 3 things to share with you today. And I want to be clear that this is not all inclusive. This is not the only 3 things that I would do. These are just 3 of the things I would do, and where I might get started with. And the cool thing about being a real person and not a robot is you might start with these 3 things as well, but you and I inevitably will find in the doing of these 3 things, probably 8 other things that come up that we probably should do as well. So here's what I would do if I had to start back over and didn't know anybody in the music business, kind of started over from scratch. And maybe something in this will work for you as well. The first thing I would do is, and this should be no surprise to you, but the first thing I would do is I would practice my tail off to get really good at the basics. So a lot of times people say practice, 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 which I definitely believe in for all musicians. But I don't mean become like Steve Vai on the guitar or something like that. Unless you're trying to play in a prog band. If you're trying to do that, then maybe do. But don't get really good at that stuff. I would say I would practice my tail off at the basics. So as I'm a drummer, so I would practice, really playing solid with a click track, like the basic patterns, very basic drum patterns, and get really good at those simple things. Because 9 times out of 10 on any instrument, that's what other people are looking for, to collaborate with, to hire to be in their band, to hire to be in their traveling band, to play on their record, whatever. You got to be really good at the basic stuff. Which the good news about that is that basic stuff is not hard to play for any of us, hopefully. If we're listening to this podcast, you're probably playing an instrument at least a little bit. But the good news is it's not hard to do that. And the other good news is it doesn't take any special talent to get great at the simple stuff. You just got to practice a lot. You got to work at it. And so that means you can do it. You can do this first step. You can practice your tail off to get good at the basics. So I do that and get really good at the basics. Make sure I've got that kind of constantly improving, and make sure that it's in a spot where I feel really good about it. How I am at playing those basic things. On guitar, it might be something like, and we'll get back to this in a minute. But you might say, well, okay, what do I, if I'm a guitar, what am I doing? Just playing scales, which, yeah, probably. But also maybe I'd pick maybe 2 or 3 records that have a good mix of simple and a little bit more challenging elements, and I'd learn the parts. So like on guitar, I'd definitely learn the rhythm parts first, kind of the building blocks, and then work on soloing, or the lead parts, not soloing, the lead parts over it. You can tell I'm not as good of a guitar player as I am a drummer. Don't know all the lingo. But yeah, playing like the lead parts for the song. So kind of work through those as well. But keep it simple. But get really good at those simple things. That's the key. So once I did that, I would look at posting some videos of myself online playing along to music in a real context. And I want to be clear about what this advice is meant to direct you towards. I don't think there is much use in trying to become internet famous as a musician. So I'm not suggesting that you do this, that you post videos of yourself playing music for the hope that in and of itself will gain you something as a musician. It might make you feel good if someone likes it or someone watches it or someone comments that they like what you do. It certainly makes me feel that way when I post something. It makes me feel great. But I think of those kinds of things as what's supposed to be a representation of what you bring to the table as a musician. It's kind of like a calling card, or like we used to have press kits back in the day as musicians, or you don't need your own website necessarily, because honestly, if you had your own website, you know what I'd suggest you put on it? A bunch of the videos that you posted to social media anyway. So just let your social media be that thing. But post some videos of yourself playing along with music in a real context. And what I mean by real context is don't go nuts soloing over some popular song. Act like you're the guy or you're the girl who's playing on the record, and play that and kind of mix it. You know, if you can mix the sound a little bit where what you're playing is a little bit louder so people can make out what you're doing, great. But the whole idea of that is that you want to help anyone who you proactively send your way, because no one, most likely, no one's just going to stumble on your social media and hire you. That has happened to me a couple of times, but that's most likely not going to be the first thing that happens for you. But what you want is you want to provide someone that you might be talking to or make a connection with otherwise. You want to give them the ability to easily envision you playing their gig, whatever gig they have. So you've got to give them musical context. Basically say, oh, I see how that person can sit in with a band and kind of find their space to play in a real musical band context. Because that's what they're going to hire you for most likely. So do some of the work for them. Help them see you in that context. And once I've done that, I would then reach out to others. And what do I mean by reach out to others? Well, the first thing I would suggest is reaching out to other musicians online with the idea of targeting collaboration. Try to collaborate with other musicians. Find someone else who is a different instrument than you, that's playing stuff that you like, that you think is cool, that is in a style that you think you could play along with, and just reach out to them and say, hey, I really like your style. I'd love to see if maybe we could collaborate. Maybe I'm a guitar player, you're a drummer. Maybe I send you some guitar tracks and you play drums on it. And then we both post the video, and posting the video again is not the end result that you're looking for. What you're looking for is to make contacts, network with other musicians, and also get experience interacting in a musical context in a way that is positive, that makes other people like interacting with you in that scenario. Because that's something that it's really tough to for a lot of us, it's really tough to be naturally good at. Some of us are more naturally gifted at getting along with others or collaborating and being open to new ideas. Some of us are more gifted at that than others. But we all can get pretty good at it if we practice. So that's what this is for, is to help you get practice at collaborating with others and developing that language that you can use to both provide positive and negative feedback, but in a way that keeps that partnership going. How do you establish partnerships with other musicians? How do you come up with something that you're proud of that also that other person's proud of? Those are all things that professional musicians have to do every day. And so if you haven't done that before, find a way to practice. And part of the way to practice is by collaborating with other people. You can do that online now. You can find people in real life too. That'd be awesome, but you don't have to. You can also do it online. So 3 things I would suggest to you, and these are things that I would do if I was starting over from scratch. I would practice my tail off to get really good at the basics. I would post videos of myself, at least a few, in a real context. And by the way, don't post anything you're not super proud of. Don't just let things slide. The beauty of video is you have a chance to do it over and over and over again until it's really, really great. So don't let things slide, because especially if you're targeting being a recording musician, because if you're willing to let things slide and put it on video, they're going to think, man, they also are willing to let things slide for my stuff. And you don't want that thought to cross someone's mind. So extra bonus tip there. And then also reach out to others for collaboration. Collaborate with people. Learn that language that you need to speak with other people in order to have a positive experience working with other musicians, because that is going to be part of your world as a professional musician. All right. Well, thanks for joining me today on The Practical Pro Musician. Like I said, my name is Daniel. I'd love for you to hang out with me more. You can check out promusician.org to look at more podcast episodes or listen to more podcast episodes. You also can click on that enroll or join waitlist button in the top right corner of promusician.org to join the waitlist or get involved in the Pro Musician Alliance, which is our very small group of musicians who are really serious about becoming professionals. And you want ongoing training. You want real to-do action items every month that you can do to make progress in your music career, and so much more. So click over there if you want to jump in on that. Otherwise, we will talk again next week. I'm so happy you could join me. Bye for now.